Director and staff of NIMASA present, officers and men of the Nigerian Navy, and the heads and representatives of the impacted communities here present. Gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Anthony Esimajemite Futuyo, an environmental officer of Bushi Property Limited. Now, having heard the spokesperson's point of view, we, the consultant, did a thorough research. And on this note, we want to present our findings to you. Having heard that we are from various communities, from Warri North and Warri Southwest local government, I know it is ideal for everybody here to know where exactly these communities are located. As shown on this slide, this is a map that shows the Delta State, Nigeria, which represents the various ethnic nationalities. As you can see here, these are the areas occupied by my communities. And I want you to take note of these two landmarks. This is the Espravos River, and this is the Benin River. The communities you see here represented are living, inhabiting the riverine areas that are located around the Espravos and the Benin River. And to let you know the correlation between these impacted communities and the oil facility owned by Shell, talking about the Bonga Oil Facility. The next slide shows us a picture. This is a shaded relief and seafloor topography map, which is showing the location of Bonga Field. And if you look at the location of Bonga Field, if you look at the map, you will see the Espravos River and the Benin River. And like I said, the communities here present are located around these areas. And this is just adjacent to the Bonga oil field. And according to our findings, if you take the distance from the Bonga facility to the adjacent riverine communities, it's about 120 kilometers. Now, in the course of our investigation, we discovered that the Bonga field itself, it's a floating production, storage, and offloading vessel that has a network of flexible pipes that are connected or attached to the seabed where the drilling of oil takes place. And according to the official press release from Shell in their website, www.shell.com.ng, an official photograph was released, which, according to Shell, was the purported cause for the Bonga oil spillage. This picture, according to Shell, was one of the loading lines, transfer loading lines. And according to Shell, on the 20th of December 2011, in the course of their routine operation, they observed that there was a spill. And on that said day, the only thing Shell did was to stop the transfer of crude oil into another vessel by name Swiss Max Novia tanker. And in one of the meetings we had with Shell in the Delta State House of Assembly on the 26th of March 2013, the chairman of that committee, by name Honorable Daniel Nyingi, asked a pertinent question to the management of Shell present. He said to them if they could tell him the date of which the said spill occurred. And it is interesting to note that Shell gave a very wrong assertion, because according to them, in trying to doctor and falsify the fact, they said it was 5-meter depth. This is very annoying, because in the course of our investigation, we discovered that this same picture from Shell that has not been altered or edited shows that the spill, the point of spill, was was 401.1 meters depth. In other words, the spill took place almost half the depth of the Bonga spill itself. Now, what is the significance of this? When a spill from this depth occurs, it is very difficult to know the exact time and point that such spill will take place, because the spill will be going under it before it will come to the surface. It would have taken a longer time. And besides, it also shows that the volume of the amount of spill that was released into the marine environment was underestimated, because Shell has not been known with telling the truth when it comes to the amount of oil spilled into the environment. So it is our own submission that that amount, which was stated as 40,000 barrels, was underestimated. At the same time, we also realized that in the course of their oil spill response, Shell did nothing. I repeat, Shell did nothing to the already spilled crude oil, other than shutting in its Bonga facility on the 21st of December 2011. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, the spill was left uncontained, unattended to for close to 48 hours. We don't know what happened, what the consequences of such negligence would do. When a spill occurs here, unattended to, uncontained, then you don't expect that spill to remain at that point. Common sense and logic tells us that the spill will migrate owing to the prevailing environmental condition, and no spill will go upstream rather than going downstream. And like I showed you in the map, the communities here present are adjacent riverine communities that are just located, just adjacent the said spill. Under normal condition, what is obtainable anywhere in the world is when there's a spill of this magnitude, the first logical thing to do is to try to contain the spill. Contain the spill, set up a perimeter so that the spill will not spread beyond the perimeter set for that spill. These are some examples of physical barriers that can be used to contain or curtail the spill. The use of boom, as you can see, if Shell had done something like this to contain the spill, then there will not be need for us to be arguing whether the spill hits the Nigerian shoreline or not. However, that was not the case with Shell. This, in my own humble opinion, is that unlike what is obtainable everywhere in the world, irrespective of the amount of spill that has been discharged into the environment, irrespective of how costly the oil facility is, the first thing that comes to mind of every reasonable corporate organization is one, health, safety, and the environment. But as depicted by Shell, Shell gives no damn. Shell is unperturbed, unconcerned. They don't care what happened to the community. That is why they have that latitude and what have you, to just allow the spill uncontained, because they felt the Nigerian law or the Nigerian system has no meaningful effect. So to that end, we, in the course of this investigation, we were able to source and we got a very reliable radar image from one of the best satellite agencies in the world. This image was gotten from European Space Agency, and this is very, very reliable. According to this image, 21st, 2011, at about 9:30 a.m. local time, this independent space agency was able to calculate the length of the said spill. This is the spill. These are where my communities are located. They were able to calculate the length of the spill and the width at its widest point. And according to this agency, they said the length of the spill was 75 kilometers long. And at its widest, it was 17 kilometers wide. and it covered a surface area of 323 square kilometers. I know this figure may be too cumbersome for our simulation, but let me try to bring it home. According to the same people, they have estimated, or it is an established fact, that the distance between the Bonga Oil Spill or the Bonga field and the adjacent community is 120 kilometers. That is established. Now, if you take the length of this spill and try to place it on that distance, you would have succeeded in covering at least 60% of the distance. That is to tell you how compact, how mighty, how gigantic, how huge this said spill is. This also is another picture that Shell published in its website. And according to this photograph, it's showing an airborne plane spraying dispersant at the Bonga crude oil spillage in the Atlantic Ocean. Once again, to further stimulate your imaginary ability, just look at this picture. Can you imagine a plane trying to disperse dispersant to combat the said spill? From this picture, you can see that even the beginning and the end of the said spill cannot be captured. That is to further tell you that the spill in question, which was uncontained, unattended to, there was no barrier of any sort to prevent this spill from not getting to the shore. There is all evidences that this spill cannot, I repeat, cannot in any way be in place without hitting the shorelines of the adjacent communities, which are here represented today. Now, for your scientific stimulation, here is a chart that shows what is obtainable anywhere in the world when a spill is introduced into the marine environment. As shown here, it depicts the fate of oil spill in any marine environment. When there's a spill in any marine environment, because of the prevailing environmental condition and the nature of the pollutant itself, so many processes take place. And all these processes are referred to as weathering process. As shown here, upon the spill, because this is also applicable to the Bonga Oil Spill, when the spill is discharged on the marine environment, the first thing that happens is the spill begins to spread out, as shown. And because crude oil is a mixture of different chains of hydrocarbons, the lighter chains, which are the gaseous hydrocarbons, tend to evaporate. And so you see evaporation and oxidation. And nobody is talking about the pollution of the atmosphere that Shell had, in their own negligence, caused the people of the Niger Delta by not taking all necessary measures to make sure that this spill was effectively contained and remediated. Apart from that, heavier hydrocarbons will sediment because they are denser. They will sink down to the sediment, to the bottom of the sea. Up till today, Shell has not given any formal or informal perception or statement concerning how they intend to remediate the already sedimented pollutant in the aquatic environment. So if you look at, just like this, Shell claimed that they used a dispersant to try to bioremediate this said spillage. And as a professional, I have worked with dispersants. And in the course of my analysis, I tried to find out what exact dispersant was used. And we were able to discover that the dispersant Shell applied by name is Biosolve. And so I want to show you the mechanism of Biosolve, because this is crucial to our claim that the oil actually hits the shorelines of the communities here present. Biosurfactant is a surface active compound that actually has two terminals, the head and the tail. And upon a spill, such as this little pictorial explanation, this is the oil, this is the water. They cannot mix together. Now, when you apply biosurfactant, the head is hydrophilic, water-loving, the tail is hydrophobic. It hates water. So when you apply bar surfactant, the water-loving part will attach to the sea, while the hydrocarbon-loving part will attach to the oil. This will give the similitude of a mixed or emulsified crude oil. After that, based on the prevailing environmental condition, it will further break the crude oil into smaller fragments. And this fragment, like I said, was not contained. So the wind, like the spokesman was trying to say, the effect of the wind, the current tides, the wave and wind action push these fragments, not just impacting the fishing areas of the said communities here present, but also hit on the community shoreline. So it is from what we have here, this also correlates to the letter that Chevron wrote to the Honorable Commissioner of Environment, Ministry of Environment, Delta State, alerting the environment that, the Ministry of Environment, that there was a spill. And according to them, in their letter dated 26th and 28th of December 2011, they said they observed some patches of crude oil in their Escravos operation area. And in the course of their investigation, they tried to see if this spill was from any of their facilities. Only for them, in the course of surveillance involvement, they discovered that the spill, the crude oil patches, was from Shell Bonga Oil Spillage. Zonal Director and staff of NIMASA. This is our assertion and this is our position. That what our clients are suffering today is as a result of the negligence of Shell to contain this spill. The principle of source-receptor linkage is that when there is a source of a spill and there are receptors that can be exposed to that spill, the ideal thing to do is to look for the various linkages and block it. When you block the various linkages, then it will be difficult for the spill to migrate to the receptors. But this was not the case with Shell, as Shell threw caution to the air and never cared what, more or less, what will happen to the communities here present. As already highlighted by the spokesman, let me also further reiterate that the effect of Shell oil spill actually affected and impacted the communities here present. One, it disturbed their fishing activities. Two, it stained or contaminated their fishing materials, contaminated vegetation, killed aquatic life, caused fishes to migrate to other areas from our client fishing areas, polluted our client surface water. We all know that one of the issues bedeviling the Niger Delta today is lack of potable water. Now Shell is now having insult upon injury by making sure that even the little surface water that we have to do our domestic activities was polluted. And like I did say, there are potential health hazards. Some of them are acute, some of them are chronic. But if nothing is done, maybe in the nearest distance, we'll begin to see the impact and the effect. And because we live in a country where lives are no longer valued, nobody cares what happens to the citizenry. And apart from that, the shores of these riverine communities were fouled by the said oil spillage coupled with the dispersant. It is my professional submission, in conclusion, that there is no place in the whole world where a spill of this magnitude, which we know was clearly underestimated to be about 40,000 barrels, would have to be cleaned up using natural attenuation enhanced with dispersant in just 5 days. Shell claimed to carry out remediation for 5 days. And at the end of the 5th day, which was 25th of December 2011, the Nigeria chairman of the person of Mr. Mutiu Sumonu claimed that on the 25th day, the effect of the emergency response was clear, and that the oil spill from Bonga was largely dispersed. The question is, dispersed to where? Certainly, dispersed to the adjacent riverine communities. Thank you.
Clap your hands for Papa. The other man that is as a professional. Papa is also a professional historian. So clap your hands for him.
I will stand on the existing protocols. I am Mr. Emmanuel Afinota. I represent the River community. In the first instance, I come from an area where the group of people in that